Good evening and welcome to Front Page on AIM Network, India's definitive media organization and voice on everything AI and technology. Tonight, from billion-dollar AI power plays to cloud slowdowns, battlefield tech breakthroughs, and a stealth leap in the skies, here are the headlines. Just ahead of OpenAI Dev Day 2025, Sam Altman's OpenAI struck a multi-billion-dollar partnership with AMD, securing up to 160 million shares and committing to deploy 6 gigawatts of Instinct GPUs, a first-of-its-kind compute for equity deal that could break Nvidia's monopoly and redefine the balance of power in the trillion-dollar AI hardware race. The world's biggest cloud players, from Amazon and Google to Microsoft and Meta, are slowing new data center investments in India amid rising energy costs, stalled land clearances, and shifting AI infrastructure priorities towards the Middle East and Southeast Asia. In Operation Sindoor, the Indian Army used 23 indigenous AI-powered applications to fuse data from drones, sensors, and satellites, enabling real-time battlefield intelligence and precision strikes across Pakistan and PoK. Building on its Su-30 MKI success, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited (HAL) has signaled readiness to co-produce Russia's next-gen Su57 stealth fighter in India, marking a major leap towards fifth-generation manufacturing and defense self-reliance. Yesterday, on Front Page, we predicted every major announcement coming out of OpenAI Dev Day 2025. And we were right. From ChatGPT apps to Agent Kit, Codex, and GPT-5 Pro, we said OpenAI was about to turn ChatGPT into an operating system for the AI world. And that's exactly what happened. If you missed that breakdown, go check it out, because today we go much deeper into the real story that's reshaping the AI global race. The story everyone missed. The AMD-OpenAI alliance that just changed everything. While the world was watching product demos, Sam Altman quietly closed one of the biggest tech partnerships of the decade. OpenAI will deploy 6 gigawatts of AMD Instinct GPUs, starting with 1 gigawatt in 2026 and scaling to 6 gigawatt over multiple years. In return, AMD has granted OpenAI warrants for up to 160 million shares, nearly 10% of AMD's equity, vested only upon performance and deployment milestones. This, well, isn't just a purchase order. It's actually a strategic fusion of compute, capital, and control. The first deal where AI infrastructure itself becomes a currency. Wall Street has never seen anything like it. AMD's stock soared 30% in a single trading day, marking one of the sharpest valuation jumps in semiconductor history. Because, well, this deal gives AMD what it's been chasing for years, a front row seat in the AI boom long dominated by Nvidia. And also, it gives OpenAI something even bigger: independence. For years, Nvidia's hardware bottlenecks have limited OpenAI's ambitions. Now, with AMD's Instinct MI450 series powering future models, OpenAI finally owns its compute destiny. 6 gigawatts of compute. Well, that's more power than some countries consume. Each phase of this build-out, from MI450 deployment to next-gen energy partnerships, will redefine what AI infrastructure even means. AMD and OpenAI will work with hyperscalers like Oracle Cloud, nuclear energy providers, and modular data center operators to make this possible. This isn't just a GPU deal. It's actually a planet-scale infrastructure project, one that fuses silicon, software, and power into a single global ecosystem. For the last half-decade, Nvidia has owned the AI revolution, from training GPT models to powering every major lab in the world. But this deal well, changes the map. AMD becomes the new co-pilot of the AI era, focused on inference, not training, and powering ChatGPT's multimodal apps, real-time voice models, and multi-agent workflows. Lisa Su called it, this is what she said, a win-win for the ecosystem, end quote. Sam Altman called it compute sovereignty. Analysts are actually calling it the first real challenge to Nvidia's dominance. In traditional tech, customers buy hardware. In this new AI world, they buy into it. OpenAI now owns a piece of its supplier. Nvidia owns a piece of OpenAI. It's actually circular capitalism, a feedback loop of investment, innovation, and interdependence. AMD gets guaranteed multi-year demand worth billions. OpenAI gets leverage, early access, and preferred pricing. This is not just a partnership, this is the birth of the compute economy. Yesterday's Dev Day, well, proved that OpenAI is no longer a software company. It's actually building an AI operating system powered by hardware alliances, energy ecosystems, and developer ecosystems. ChatGPT apps put productivity inside conversations. Agent Kit turns every user into a creator. Codex automates software itself. And now AMD powers it all. So, what's actually the result? OpenAI controls the full stack from interface to silicon. And, of course, joining us today is Romesh Uduk, a veteran technologist with over 37 years of global IT experience spanning finance, retail, and cloud infrastructure. Having worked across platforms from Unix to AWS and now serving as a financial advisor at Prime Rika. Ramesh, well, brings a rare blend of technical and financial insight. He actually joins us as an analyst for the very first time on Front Page to share his perspective on the AMD OpenAI partnership, what it means for the AI hardware ecosystem, and how this deal could reshape the future of compute economics. Welcome to Front Page, Ramesh. Pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks, Sudhi, for inviting me.
All right. Well, Ramesh, let's get right into it. Let's get into decoding as far as this historic deal is concerned. What's actually, it's unlike anything that the tech industry has ever seen. So basically, I want to ask you this right off the bat. How does one even begin to make sense of this?
This has come, I think, looks like it's a surprise. And I don't think the market has expected. And yesterday, as you have mentioned, the shares just shot up.
Yes, 30%.
It's 30%, and then it settled down to about 24%, 23,
Hmm,
24%,
hmm,
but still. And then uh, the OpenAI president and Dr. Lisa Su, AMD CEO, they were all in all channels yesterday glorifying this pact,
hmm.
which is really, mm, I mean, it is really, really interesting how they came up with this deal,
Sure.
where, as you mentioned very clearly in your nice summary, that they have to start 1 gigahertz implementation by 2026, and after
Yes.
that, the thing. And the surprising thing is they are getting shares at 0.01 cent
Wow. Wow.
warrants.
Wow.
160 million
Yeah.
shares. And you know
Yeah.
what, Sudhi, you know what the price of AMD yesterday was? Like $230. That means they're probably getting it for like um, 23 cents or something like that,
Wow.
you know. Uh,
Right.
but of course, they have a lot of milestones. OpenAI has to reach some
Sure,
milestones.
sure, sure. And it is actually
Okay.
based on that, the milestones in the deployment aspect. The power shift, Ramesh, do you see this as a power shift? Because OpenAI's 10% stake makes AMD, well, a core part of its $1 trillion compute roadmap, breaking NVIDIA's near monopoly. So basically, do you think this partnership signals the beginning of true compute sovereignty for OpenAI, or is it just diversification theater? Can AMD realistically challenge Nvidia's dominance at scale, or will it remain just a, well, a strategic hedge rather than a true rival?
I think, Sudhi, I feel that it may not over like over dominate Nvidia, because see, Nvidia is they have this CUDA, this parallel
Yes,
software, which is a very very strong base. They started in 2012 2011, around that time,
right.
and it's been going on, and they have like millions of developers across the world, and they have a nice for it takes, I would say, even though I think OpenAI, I mean AMD has come up with the MI 350, MI 450 series things chips.
MI
We have
450,
to see
yes.
how, yeah, and we have to see how it will perform against the Blackwell and the new chips that Nvidia comes for. If it turns out to be great, yeah, it might sustain, but who knows? I mean, after the first initial 1 gigahertz thing, it may fall out too. This contract, if the performance of these chips do not match with Nvidia's, then who knows? This
Hmm.
contract may not even sustain. Okay, well, a lot of things are up in the air now. Can they create this software ecosystem like Nvidia? It's not
Hmm.
that simple, in my opinion, because that's where even the Chinese models will have a problem, because I
Hmm.
mean, sorry, the Chinese chips will also have a problem, because this whole CUDA, this whole software base, that ecosystem that Nvidia
Yes.
created over a period, decade and odd, is not easy to replicate. I mean, I'm not saying it's not good, it cannot be overtaken, but it's not that simple, I feel. Yeah.
No, fair enough, Ramesh. But at least what I could gather is the fact at least it's a good start. I mean, there has been a monopoly, and it is a good start, which actually brings me to the next thought, which is as far as AMD's MI 450 rollout starts in 2026. You just mentioned that scaling to about 6 gigawatts, a commitment worth tens of billions. Fair. AMD's deal gives OpenAI massive supply guarantees, but the question is at what cost? And here is what I would like for you to shed light on. Are we looking at the start of a compute bubble where companies exchange equity for chips, or is this simply the new way of financing AI infrastructure moving forward?
There are two schools of thought, as you said. There's
Hmm.
one which says it's a bubble, it could happen. It's like the dot-com bubble, where
Sure.
a lot of companies, just they disappeared.
Hmm.
There is another school of thought, like Jeff Bezos was in Italy last week, I mean a couple of days ago, and he said even if it's a bubble, there is legs to this boom, because
Hmm.
just like we had the dark fiber, and the fiber companies got wiped out,
Hmm.
then the Amazons, the Googles, the Metas and all made use of the internet system, and then and Netflix and all that, and they came out of this one. For you got these the ecosystem developed. That's what Bezos says. Therefore he says, even if there is it could be a some companies might get wiped out, the infrastructure will be created, because
Sure.
all these data centers, these AI data centers across the world, even in India, for example, we have got commitments from OpenAI and from
Hmm.
other
Hmm.
things, to set up these things with Reliance.
Hmm.
For all these things will not go away, because we still need, I mean, people still use all
Yeah.
these data has to be stored, and
True.
have, therefore it may not be a complete wipeout, but I think there could be a bubble happening too. I mean, it's, but we have to see how it goes. Some people are saying it's a 96 moment, some people are saying it's a 99 moment, but we don't know exactly what it is.
So wait and watch is what you are prescribing, Ramesh.
Is
Well,
what I yeah, yeah, I think, but the market is like, is like ignoring everything. I mean, it's booming, the
yes.
market.
Yes.
Yesterday Nvidia dropped only by 1%.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Circular, the circular capital aspect. As I had mentioned, I'll draw your attention to it again. Nvidia owns a stake in OpenAI. Now OpenAI owns AMD. This AI capital loop has investors divided. So Ramesh, with Nvidia holding a stake in OpenAI and now OpenAI owning a slice of AMD, are we actually seeing innovation or, well, incestuous financing? How sustainable is this circular economy where, basically tech giants effectively fund each other's growth?
Yes, you are absolutely correct. And remember, Microsoft has got a stake in OpenAI,
Yes.
and and uh, this circular economy. It might. That's what everyone feels like. This is this circular economy is sounds like some alarming signs are there.
Hmm.
But
Why do you
yesterday,
say that
Lisa
though?
Su,
Why do you say that, Ramesh? In terms of it being alarming signs, why do you say that?
because what if let's say one link in this chain is the weakest link. Let's
Hmm.
assume that we
Hmm.
don't know which link is that. Is it
Hmm.
OpenAI? If
Hmm.
OpenAI is a link that is the biggest way, that will be like the whole chain gets snapped off, because
Correct.
everyone is dependent on OpenAI. Yesterday in the dev
In the dev
conference
day, yeah.
yesterday. Yeah, dev day conference. Thank you. They mentioned like 6 billion tokens are
Yes.
being generated every minute. Okay,
Right. Right.
now they are losing a lot of money. They are losing billions per month, OpenAI.
Hmm.
Okay, but
Hmm.
they don't care. They are like the Amazon of 2000. They are, I think people are saying it. They are like Amazon lost for 12, 15 years
Hmm.
money, but then they went on this growth model. For Sam Altman says, oh, we want to be like the growth model, rather we don't worry about the thing, because they're getting a lot of capital. They're just raising capital like crazy. And therefore, if one of the links, to answer your question, what if OpenAI is the weakest link here, then what will
Hmm.
happen to Nvidia, AMD? There is other companies around it, and even it might affect even Anthropic, the whole
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
Oh, it's a very
But
no,
I
I
mean,
mean,
Ramesh, when you've of course you've mentioned the obvious aspect of the fact that one company could be a weakest link. Also, if you were to look at it from the other part of the lens, which could be the fact that since there is a circular loop, each company is actually going ahead and ensuring that they're buffering each other up so that nobody seems to create a vacuum of sorts somewhere down the road. That could also be another benefit as far as this is concerned. I don't know what you feel about that.
you are right, but let me play a devil's advocate here. What if the users, okay, ultimately they have to make money, okay, they have to get the
Sure.
revenue. What if the corporates didn't do not see the productivity?
Hmm.
Okay, what if the users do not see the gains in it? Like thing, we don't want just one more app instead of the Google app store, and you have
Hmm.
the what do you call the Apple's app store, and we just don't. There should be some productivity gains in this one.
Fair.
Otherwise, what if there is the demand falls out? I
Hmm.
mean, that's the question here. What if yesterday, like for example, Deloitte to some company signed with Anthropic 450,000 licenses, okay?
Hmm. Hmm.
And my question is, let's say they give for a year or two, and if they don't see productivity in the thing, we should see productivity in manufacturing, in retail, in banking, in finance, in name it, everywhere, in healthcare. What
Hmm.
if there is no productivity gains? uh, then what will happen? Will the companies keep spending money on these licenses,
No,
and
fair
will
enough.
OpenAI,
Hmm.
therefore it's something no one knows. I mean, we should, I would say maybe it will take 2 3 4 years before we know exactly what's going to happen.
What's
In the
finally cooking?
meanwhile, they're
Yeah.
pouring, yeah, in the meanwhile they're pouring in like $1 trillion, $400 billion, all these companies, seven mega
Yes.
these like they're pouring like 300 400 billion dollars a year. Therefore it's a iffy thing. I mean, no one knows the show for sure.
Which actually brings perfectly us to the next point, which is the tech performance. You just had alluded to that, Ramesh. AMD's MI450 GPUs are meant to compete with Nvidia's H200s and Blackwell chips, as you had mentioned earlier. But CUDA's ecosystem still dominates. That's a point you made. Performance wise, can AMD's Instinct GPUs really deliver on OpenAI's scale ambitions beyond hardware? Does AMD have the software ecosystem like CUDA to support the complex agentic workloads OpenAI is building? You, of course, mentioned it's taken Nvidia to build that ecosystem over more than a decade. Fair. But moving forward, do you feel that that would be a point of concentration as far as AMD is concerned?
I think the software is the key. I feel, Sudhi, here, because
Hmm.
it's not the just the processor; it's the software, it's the ecosystem. For That's where the strength of a thing is, whether it's Nvidia or AMD.
Hmm.
Just because we have a processor chip, which may be fast in clock time and all that, but what about the whole ecosystem, the software? That's
Fair.
where the gains are. For we can't declare that Nvidia is having a threat right now immediately
Hmm.
based on
Hmm.
this agreement, but it does give, saying Nvidia has to be, I mean, watch, I mean, they have to watch out that there is competition coming down the road. I
Which
mean,
is
it
always a
may or
good
may not
thing,
have.
Ramesh. Honestly speaking,
Yeah.
competition is always good. It tends to, well, inspire innovation. It tends to inspire a lot of the factors. You're less complacent for that matter. So I think it is a good thing in a positive way if one was to look at it. And of course, AMD building up that software ecosystem, as you mentioned.
Yes, absolutely. Competition is necessary. Right now, we only have two of them. Remember, Intel is not in the picture right now,
Yeah, yeah.
and there is another company, inference chip called Grok, which is
Hmm.
coming. They have established. They have clients in Middle East, in UAE, some AI data center, but that's a very small player, very very tiny player.
Sure.
Therefore, you don't have too many competition in this one. Therefore, Nvidia is the 90%, 95% of the
Yep.
installations today. Sudhi, by the way, today XAI,
Hmm.
the Musk company,
Hmm.
is rumored to order about $20 billion worth of Nvidia chips for its
Wow.
Colossus second super AI cluster, which they are
Hmm.
establishing. Okay,
Hmm.
first one is already there. Second one for a 500,000 thing they're going to do. Therefore, Nvidia is still gets about 95, is still getting 95% of
Sure.
the market share. For example, in India too, we are getting it from Nvidia. Now we have about 35. A lot of
Yes.
chips are coming from. Okay, therefore, I don't think it's a we can the jury can declare saying, hey, this is the win. I mean, sorry, AMD is going to be a competitor. It may turn out to be a competitor. Who knows? But we don't know till a few years from now. I feel
But at least,
we have to
but at
see.
least it's a good start, I believe, Ramesh, and AMD should definitely. I'm pretty sure they would be aspiring to go ahead and give that positive competition to Nvidia, which actually brings me to this fact, and this would have definitely helped as far as AMD's excitement and positivity is concerned, because well, the stock jumped over 30% as we discussed post announcement. Its biggest rally in years. So well, do you see this rally, Ramesh, as a sustainable re-rating of AMD's AI potential, or just speculative euphoria? Because while investors celebrate, execution, not enthusiasm, will actually decide if AMD can keep up with Nvidia's pace.
That is the point. You made the right word there, execution. Now,
Hmm.
will it yesterday the market was all this euphoria. Oh, we got this. Oh, AMD is like is going to be a competitor, and therefore there was this thing. And also AMD CEO Lisa Su went on all channels and then said, hey, if you question it, it's a defeatist attitude. I mean, I'm not say
Hmm.
she didn't say exactly those words, but I'm paraphrasing it.
Sure.
Um, for I think there is some market hype of AMD 30%, but will it sustain in the third quarter when they announce the results? And there will be when the analyst starts questioning, and they will get an idea about it. Then we would know whether it is really this rise has got legs or not. We will know by third or fourth quarter. We will know that.
Fair
Because
enough.
then how the plan implementation is and all that stuff, how OpenAI. And by
Sure.
the way, OpenAI is also might face competition from Gemini, which is coming next week.
Right.
They are
Right.
releasing. Okay,
Right. It's
for
right around the corner.
then you
Yes.
have. Anthropic is on the enterprise B2B type of a thing. Anthropic is
Yes.
doing extremely well. Okay,
Yes.
for uh, we have to see whether how all this, how OpenAI is putting computing power like there is no tomorrow,
True.
and whether they need all this computing power or not, and how the, a lot of other guys, there is a lot of things. But as you said, the execution part for AMD is will determine whether
Is the
this
key.
is sustainable or not. Yeah.
Yes, it's the key. Fair enough. There is
Yep.
jubilation right now, but it needs to be well followed up. They need to walk the talk. OpenAI now has, well, multi-billion dollar deals with both Nvidia and AMD, totaling nearly $1 trillion in future compute. What does this
Yeah.
tell us, Ramesh, about the future of AI infrastructure? Are we moving towards a world where AI companies own parts of every chip maker, or will this lead to an eventual consolidation? One company controlling both silicon and software.
I don't know whether there would. I think there may not be consolidation between. If you are asking whether Nvidia and AMD will there be, because these are the main two players.
Hmm,
Because right
hmm.
now Intel has been sidelined. Therefore,
Yes,
I don't know whether there will be consolidation in the AI chip market. Now we don't know what's going to happen. By the way, we have to take into account the Chinese chip makers too, like Huawei and all that. Okay, how they
sure.
will come up with. Okay,
Hmm, hmm,
for um, even though the in the most of the Western world, the American chip makers will find their market. It's very difficult for the Chinese to get into, I feel. Okay,
fair.
um, on the software side, when you say software, I'm assuming you're talking about the OpenAI
Yes,
or the Anthropic and thing, the models, the LLMs. Yes,
yes.
that is a concern, because how many players right now? We have five major players. Okay,
Hmm,
OpenAI, Anthropic, XAI, Gemini, and Meta,
hmm,
Llama. Okay,
hmm.
and maybe they may not all may not be there. I'm sure the OpenAI, Gemini, and Anthropic will be there. The question is, I'm having doubts about XAI and Llama.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Um, because
Okay.
their market share is still very small. I think I was looking yesterday, nearly 80% of the traffic is with OpenAI, and the
Yes.
rest of them are all having like 5%, 4%, 3%, 2%, and all. That's all they have.
Hmm.
DeepSeek is also 3% or something. Even though we had this big thing news on about DeepSeek in January, February of this year.
Hmm.
It hasn't gone up beyond that 3%
Mark.
thing, okay,
Hmm.
mark.
Hmm.
Therefore, but the DeepSeek will be there because it's a Chinese government will make sure that it's not going to go anywhere, and it's an open source and all that stuff. But in this one, in the American models, you don't know how many of them will survive. You are right. After we would know, maybe again after 3-4 years, whether because you have to keep constantly putting this much investment capex, and how long can they sustain without any returns, and
Okay. Okay.
and one more thing, Sudhi, yesterday, if you look at it, the apps, OpenAI is getting into apps very seriously.
Yes. Yes.
They are going to go and eliminate a lot of these wrapper agentic
Hmm. Hmm.
startups,
Hmm.
and
Right.
it's going to get for them, you know.
Okay. So, well, Ramesh, your final thoughts, very briefly, as far as this huge development is concerned. Your final take, as far as this deal is concerned, OpenAI and AMD. What do you see?
I agree with you. It's a good thing for a competition. We need more companies. We need
True.
more chip companies. More, I hope AMD will become a serious player and then give competition to Nvidia. Absolutely, it's a great news. I mean, I'm not. I'm on that front. I'm not at all this thing, disappointed. It's a great thing that we have some competition,
Sure.
and we have to see whether it will sustain. That's the only thing. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Ramesh, thank you so much for joining us. It was a true pleasure speaking with you. Of course, as you said, that one needs to wait and watch and see how the execution will flow. We'll, of course, keep checking back in with you, Ramesh, for your insights on future front pages. We look forward to you coming on to the show. Thank you so much again. Well,
Thank you
ladies
very
and
much,
gentlemen,
Rudy, and I had a great time at our conference too. It's very
hey,
nice. Yeah,
thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed meeting with you there as well. Of course, Ramesh is
thank you.
mentioning
Thank
Cypher. It was a lot of fun having him there as well.
yeah,
Thanks.
Stefan.
Thanks
Yeah,
so much,
yeah.
Ramesh. Well,
Thank you.
all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here it is. As far as this particular deal is concerned, we've all heard what Ramesh feels, but this is what our final understanding and takeaway is. OpenAI's Dev Day may have actually dazzled the developers, but this AMD deal is what truly defines the next decade of AI. ChatGPT now owns the interface, AMD owns the infrastructure, and Sam Altman owns the narrative. This isn't just about intelligence anymore. It's actually about power, literal, electrical, and economic. Because in 2025, the most valuable resource on earth isn't data or code, it's compute. And OpenAI just made sure it will never, ever run out again. Well, for right now, we're going to take a short little break on front page, and then we're going to be back with lots more. So, well, till then, think AI, think AIM.
We are AIM Media House. Born in Nama, Bengaluru. Built for the world. We make tech make sense. We tell stories that matter. This is the era of AI, and we are the ones telling its story. Think AI, think AIM.
And I have seen this place grow from strength to strength. Speakers, the sessions, and the vibe around that.
Love the vibe. Love to see how big it has gotten over the years.
The largest AI conference in India.
Cypher has definitely attained a cult status.
Artificial intelligence.
AI.
Coexisting.
AI.
We are AIM Media House. Born in Nama, Bengaluru. Built for the world. We make tech make sense. We tell stories that matter. This is the era of AI, and we are the ones telling its story. Think AI, think AIM.
And I have seen this place grow from strength to strength.
Speakers, the sessions, and the vibe around that.
Love the vibe. Love to see how big it has gotten over the years.
The largest AI conference in India.
Cypher has definitely attained a cult status.
Artificial
intelligence.
AI. Coexisting.
AI.
We are AIM Media House. Born in Nama, Bengaluru. Built for the world. We make tech make sense. We tell stories that matter. This is the era of AI, and we are the ones telling its story. Think AI, think AIM.
And I have seen this place grow from strength to strength.
Speakers, the sessions, and the vibe around that.
Love the vibe. Love to see how big it has gotten over the years.
The largest AI conference in India.
Cypher has definitely attained a cult status.
Artificial
intelligence,
AI coexisting.
AI.
We are AIM Media House. Born in Nama, Bengaluru. Built for the world. We make tech make sense. We tell stories that matter. This is the era of AI, and we are the ones telling its story. Think AI, think AIM.
Welcome back to Front Page. And as we had said prior to the break, something big is happening behind closed server doors. Well, for the first time in years, US hyperscalers Amazon, Microsoft, and Google have very quietly hit pause on new data center leases in India. Not because demand is weak, but because trade tensions between New Delhi and Washington have suddenly made long-term bets look a lot riskier than they did a few months ago. According to top industry executives, the deals are still on the table, in the pipeline, but not signed yet. End quote. It's actually a polite way of saying we're waiting to see what Trump does next. And here's what triggered that chill. In August, the US government imposed 25% tariffs on Indian exports, only to raise them to 50% weeks later, citing India's discounted crude oil imports from Russia. Then came the shocker, a $100,000 one-time visa fee on new H-1B applications. Together, these moves rattled the economics of data infrastructure. We have covered all of these developments extensively here on Front Page. Please make sure to check it out if you haven't already. Back to, well, the hyperscalers who rely on global supply chains, cross-border engineers, and hardware imports that now look, well, painfully uncertain. Even routine procurement, servers, GPUs, networking equipment, suddenly carries tariff exposure and customs unpredictability. The impact is immediate and visible. Contracts that once took 60 days to close are now crawling past 180. According to Anarok Capital, hyperscalers today make up 30% of India's total data center demand, and that share was expected to rise to 35% by 2026. But for the last 2 months, no new hyperscale lease has been signed. Instead, lawyers and financiers are busy adding new clauses like this: tariff pass-throughs, change in law, phased capacity deployment. Well, the translation to all of that is this: no one wants to be the one holding the bag if the next tariff or visa rule hits mid-project. The slowdown couldn't have come at a worse time. India's data center capacity, currently around 1.2 gigawatts, was projected to triple to over 3.5 gigawatts by 2030, driven by the AI and cloud explosion. Global majors like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon were pretty much scouting for multi-hundred megawatt campuses across Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Tamil Nadu. OpenAI was reportedly looking for Indian partners for its first overseas compute hub. Now, those same deals are being re-evaluated, not cancelled, but not advancing either. As one property consultant told CNBC, hyperscalers haven't vanished, they've just hit pause, end quote. The tariffs aren't the only problem. A global GPU shortage driven by AI model training has already slowed down expansion plans worldwide. Add trade frictions to the mix, and even companies ready to spend billions can't reliably plan timelines. It's not just actually about servers anymore. It's about predictability, power, policy, and people. Because hyperscalers sign 15 to 20-year leases, and any disruption, well, from tariffs to export controls, can break the economics of billion-dollar infrastructure overnight. While data center plans froze, another Trump-era proposal resurfaced: a ban on US companies outsourcing software and back office work to Indian IT firms. If implemented, it could erase millions of jobs and threaten $80 billion worth of an annual IT exports. The message from Washington is, well, quite clear. America first, again, but this time the target isn't just cheap labor. It's actually AI labor. The same engineers who built global digital backbones are now viewed as, well, competition to United States tech workers, and that has downstream effects on infrastructure, planning, capital deployment, and hiring. This crisis, well, is a stress test for India's digital economy. If big tech won't build, the question is, can India? Well, unless domestic players step up really fast, Chinese and Middle Eastern cloud providers could fill that gap. A scenario India wants to avoid for both security and sovereignty reasons. One company already showing the way is, well, Zoho. As we reported earlier on Front Page, Zoho's Aratai, Messenger, and Zia AI stack run fully on Zoho's own infrastructure. Not AWS, not Azure, not Google Cloud. CEO Mani Vembu, well, in a wonderful conversation with us here on Front Page, said this: owning your own stack isn't just efficient, it's actually sovereign, end quote. It's actually a line India's policymakers might want to remember. Well, for India to keep its digital momentum, policy certainty is key. And here's what analysts suggest: lock in long-term power and tariff stability for data parks, offer tax holidays for domestic compute capacity, build sovereign AI clusters under the India AI mission, attract private REITs and insurance funds into the data infrastructure market, train an AI-ready data ops workforce to reduce reliance on imported expertise. Well, because in the end, global companies can pause, but India can't afford to. And joining us today are actually distinguished voices decoding what the United States data center slowdown means for India's digital and AI ambitions. Jollydeep Kaur, Head of Marketing at NextGen Cloud Technologies, brings over 2 decades of experience in enterprise cloud strategy and AI-driven infrastructure, helping shape India's role in the global data economy. And we also have with us Rajesh Bharatiya, founder and CEO of PeopleFi, represents the pulse of India's HR and analytics ecosystem, working with top global MNCs to build high-performance technology teams through his award-winning Talent Solutions platform. Together, they'll help us explore, well, this. Is this United States slowdown just a pause or a pivotal moment for India to redefine its data center playbook, balancing talent, energy, and AI infrastructure for the decade ahead? Well, let's start with Jollydeep Kaur on whether this slowdown signals a strategic pause or a push for India's self-reliant AI infrastructure. Welcome to the show, Jolly. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Sudhi, for getting us on this show. I think this conversation couldn't be more timely. Over the last decade, we've been growing very fast as a consumer of compute. But now it's a time for us to take stage as the consumer creator, right? So, sovereign compute creator. When we look at, answering your question, whether it's a temporary pause, a strategic pause, or structural pullback, in my view, it's neither a panic or a policy retreat. It's more like a recalibration. These US forces are optimizing their own strengths. They're looking at how much capex is being spent by them over very, very high interest rates. There is tariff frictions. There are hardware bottlenecks. So while all these things happen, India still remains a very strategic growth market. Now the question is, what is changing and who will build this next layer of capacity? We are seeing a very structural rebalancing here, from being foreign funded to now a sovereign co-created infrastructure. I think it's a healthy time for India for building a long-term resiliency on the infrastructure, leadership.
Fair enough. Rajesh, welcome to the show. Basically, what I wanted to, of course, start off the conversation with you on was this. India's homegrown players can actually seize this opportunity. Is this actually a temporary pause or, again, a structural pullback with basically Amazon, Microsoft, and Google freezing new data center leases in India? Are we witnessing a short-term tariff reaction or the beginning of a strategic shift in how US big tech views India's digital infrastructure market?
No, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Pleasure.
Coming to your question, I think there are many factors playing over here, and like my co-panelists spoke about, I would say it's both, in the sense we were taking few things for granted that this will happen. The global players will, put the capex and things will happen here. But now India needs to rethink their strategy because you need to start creating a backup plan in case this does not happen. So, but first of all, it's a big setback in a way where if India wants to achieve the targeted capacity of 5 gigawatt by 2030, I think a large heavy lifting would have been done by the giants like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and others. So right now it's too early to conclude in any which way, but it is definitely an eye opener for people in India, for the people in power or people in tech to see how we can have a backup mechanism, alternative mechanism to build of our own, but we don't have the kind of capex that these companies can bring in. So, if possible, I think the people should go into analyzing further what's really causing. I don't see tariff as a problem. I don't see H1B as a problem. It could be more of a situation, political situation, where somebody doesn't want to be seen as putting up big spend in India and creating more jobs in India. So that could be a reason, is what I believe.
Very interesting. Jolly ma'am, would you agree with what Rajesh just mentioned? Do you think it could be one of those aspects which is just something which is flying under the radar? Hello? Yeah.
I think government is taking a lot of steps in India. Hello? Again?
Oh, there seems to be a there seems to be a
Sudhir, can you
connection
hear?
problem, Jolly. I think at your end, it's quite patchy. The connection. I think, well, till we get Jolly back, Rajesh, I like to actually move on to the next aspect. How fragile is actually India's data ambition without US capital? If hyperscalers hold back, can India still hit, like you mentioned, its 3.5 gigawatt data center target by 2030? Or will this pause expose how dependent India's AI and cloud ecosystem remains on foreign infrastructure money? You just mentioned that, of course, we need to analyze, but do we have the time? Is the point. Because we all know how predictable Trump is.
Sudhir, for whatever connection issue or something, I see the voice is not coming very clear, but I kind of got the question, and I believe that India needs those partners, those giants to spend the kind of capex that each of those companies like Microsoft and others, they spend. Can I continue?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so almost 30 to 40 billion dollars USD they spend every year on the cloud infra. Nobody in India currently in his position to spend that kind of money, and this other thing is, they once such data centers are established, these companies can become the first occupier of the data center, by which they can guarantee a lot of you know usage happening, and making it economically viable for the people who are putting the money over there. So definitely we need these companies to come in. That will be a big
But
ask.
what if the
But
policy
parallelly,
doesn't allow it,
such
Rajesh?
events are happening,
What if,
and like
unfortunately, the
you said, we
policy
are
doesn't
commenting
allow
too
it?
early. Even recently, Google announced something about setting up something in Vizag in Andhra Pradesh. So there's a mixed reaction right now, but basically a wake up call. I would say to our people over here to start building something in parallel.
Jolly, good to have you back. If you've heard what Rajesh just mentioned, I just wanted to actually follow up on that and ask you this: what if actually the policy doesn't allow it? Fair, it is a wake up call, but according to you, Jolly, what do we really need to do in terms of the fact that how do we fill this gap? The portents are already there. There has been an entire aspect which is already, the bell has rung. What if the policy doesn't allow us? What are we going to do then?
I believe that while we are maturing as a market, I mean, we've seen the last decade, these hyperscalers have really seeded the capacities. But now domestic market is also growing. They're stepping
Sure.
in. The large government companies like BSNL, Railtel, Power Grid, all of these are stepping in. The PSU RAITs, the Indian Infra funds, government is putting in a lot of effort to ensure that there's not a push in terms of the Swadeshi adoption.
Yes.
If you look at how we are growing, I mean, as next gen alone, we are looking at expanding our GPU infrastructure by about 32% CAGR. So I think 5 gigawatts by 2030 is achievable. It'll come from Indian balance sheets. So we are ready, and I think we're already there on that path. we just need to ensure that the policies are more practical rather than just political, and we're not taking any steps which are just political answers. We do something which is more long term, which brings in more resiliency in terms of India as a country. How do we protect our digital boundaries?
Wonderfully put, actually, Jolly, because that is where I think we need to genuinely pour in all our efforts into, is the fact that the policy makers need to align with the fact that, yes, tomorrow, like Trump has gone ahead and done this, he is somebody who could actually go ahead and genuinely handicap the way we are growing at the speed at which we are growing. And we need to kind of look within and make sure that we are in it for the long haul and trying to understand how do we bridge that gap. Which actually brings me to this aspect, Rajesh. Can India build its own sovereign compute stack? Should India push for a national version of that, or a homegrown data and AI stack to reduce exposure to US, as Jolly just mentioned, policy basically, and ensure long-term sovereignty? What do you have to say on that, Rajesh? Need of the hour?
So I think for our own sovereignty and for data protection of sensitive data of Indian citizens, of course, government can have more concrete guidelines. Though we have certain policies announced recently, but it can be given more concise way what data needs to stay within the country and what kind of data can coexist of other countries in India. But I think without the help of some of the biggest, my personal view is that it will be a difficult task, but yet we have to make a beginning in that direction
Yes. Yes.
of building our own. Because we cannot trust some of our neighbors who where the
Yep.
some of this may go in case India does not take the advantage of being the center of the global data centers. We This is a great opportunity for India, and we will be able to create lot many jobs. It will
True.
help the economy. So I think we should also work on how to make it easier, comfortable, policy wise. How can we give certain
According
terms
to you,
to
what would you like to say to the policymakers? For example, Rajesh, you're
sorry,
saying in terms of policies. According to you, what would you like to say to the policymakers? For example,
I didn't get the question. Sorry.
I'm asking you. You're talking about the policies, the policy aspect of it. What would you probably
Mhm.
like to suggest to the policymakers? How should they go ahead and envisage those policies?
So there are three sides to it. One, I'm saying we need to have our policies unambiguous to the IT giants who can play a big role in setting up such centers in India. We
Hmm.
should create so that they don't have any uncertainty about some retrospective, some rules coming, and so we need to create a very open kind of policy where the risk or the uncertainty amongst them should go away, and how we will like for example, one of our giant neighbor, there's always a fear that the data may be asked by the government. There's a fear that data may be misused.
Hmm.
India can make it very clear that it is the safest place. So that could be one way to mitigate some of the pause that's happening from the global giants.
Okay. Jolly, I wanted to understand this. Taking a page out of, let's say, Zoho's playbook. Zoho forever has had that policy at the root of it, right from the inception, that they've kept their data, they've kept their infrastructure sovereign. Do you believe that now, with something like this taking place, a lot of companies should maybe look at that model as well? It's very important for us to do that. And second, I would ask you also the same question. What would you like to suggest to the policymakers before, of course, I move on to the other aspects of things?
Sudhir, the last part was not clear. Could you please repeat what?
I finally, I'll sum it up very quickly for you, Jolly. The fact that Zoho, of course, I hope you've heard what I mentioned about Zoho, and the fact that
Yeah.
what again would you feel as a very important voice in the ecosystem, Jolly? Would you like to suggest to the policymakers, as I had asked Rajesh, that how should one be tailor making the policies now moving forward?
Yeah, so Sudhi, I think these tariff rises and visa tightening has given us a very, very clear message that we need local talent, we need to uh, locally we have our own local fabs, we need to have our own local IP. India has always been serving the global, infrastructure requirement or a
Sure.
global, the global AI requirement. It's time for us to own our own, the sovereign piece. How we are going to do it? We need to, of course, policies play a big role. Governments push on how they support local build. Our own industries, our own investors, if they invest into like call for Zoho was very, very taken very, very positively, right? It brought in a lot of hope to the Indian. You yourself covered a big episode on people who are taking Indian AI use cases globally. So those are the ones episodes which will become very, very uh, encouraging for the local talent, for multiple domestic players to start innovating, operating, and creating a single national, nation lock-in. So we need to work on those policies. We have to ensure we have talent which is trained. We ensure that we have resources enough which make the case stronger for an Atmanirbhar
Sure.
digital.
Fair enough, Jolly. And I feel, yes, the momentum is definitely gaining as far as that is concerned, the Atmanirbharta aspect. So, Jolly, again to you. Is Trump's trade war reshaping India's AI roadmap with tariff hikes, like I had mentioned earlier, visa fees choking the talent and hardware flow? Can India still remain the AI back office of the world, or does this mark the start of new decoupling?
Uh, I think it is accelerating it. I mean, it
Hmm.
is it is giving us some urgency to take steps
Yes.
to become more resilient, independent from such kind of you know trade wars or geopolitical gimmicks that are
True.
happening. So, and if you look at how we as next gen are, we are building our own coding assistants. We've built
Hmm.
a very nice autopilot, coding autopilot. We're making some cases financial AI use cases. There are regulatory use cases that are being built, all being trained on Indian data by Indian engineers on Indian GPUs.
Nice.
The way we've created the infrastructure. So this is accelerating, in my view, in terms of what we need to do. There's an urgency created. I think a lot of people are coming together to co-create products which will make global
Hmm.
sense. Uh, I think we showed this by what we did with UPI. It's
Yep.
just time to place those same tactics to see how we can go global with what we're doing around AI.
Wonderful. So that means clearly, Jolly, there has to be a very, very concerted effort of a pushback. What's
Yes.
the real risk, Rajesh? Delay, dependency, or displacement? So basically, if United States firms pause and China or Middle Eastern players fill the gap, could India's AI infrastructure ambitions turn from self-reliance to strategic vulnerability? Because time is of the essence. Do you agree?
So I think biggest risk is not delay. I mean, we can wait and take a good stand on what needs to be done. The risk is dependency. If we're just going to swap from US cloud to a Middle Eastern or a Chinese option, we are we're just bringing that same vulnerability, but with a different flag. Uh,
Okay.
the answer is more in how do we create distributed sovereignty? How can we bring in more domestic players? How we can create interoperable stacks? Uh, how is it that we could adopt more and more of open source innovation so that we do not have these lock-in issues? We're not depending. In next gen specifically, we call sovereignty to be built on three pillars. One is your data. Of course, your data should reside in India. Your data centers should be local. The second is technology. What kind of technology are you using? Are you using an open source technology or a closed source technology? So what is it that is going to create these dependencies for you to be shut because of any such changes, tariffs,
Sure.
geopolitical issues? And the third is your operations. Are you operationally sovereign? Are your people trained to support those technologies? So I think these are very, very important. As at NextGen, we've been fighting this case, lobbying with government, with enterprise to make this more relevant. But I think the recent incidents, uh, like what happened with Naira, the Microsoft
Sure.
use case, and of course whatever these decisions that are being driven from US has brought in a lot of confidence now in domestic players with the enterprises in India. In fact, leading a conversation, we've been asked, can you do sovereign for us? How are you sovereign? So it's a very welcome step that people are now opening up conversations around how we can bring more decisions in how we operating our business. It's not in the hands of some this good thing to happen, and we have to ensure that we are making steps to mitigate this dependency.
Fair enough. Rajesh, I of course wanted to ask you this, which is how should India respond? Wait, hedge, or build? Should India double down on domestic REITs, PSU led compute clusters, and local hyperscalers, or hope trade diplomacy restores big tech confidence before the decade's biggest data opportunity slips away? It's a very important one, Rajesh. What do you feel about this?
Sure, I think there has to be a multi-pronged approach definitely in the short term. So we need to understand there's a hardware and there's a software, the two sides
Sure.
to it. The software side, yes, India has that lot of talent and capability. The hardware is the real issue where the capex involvements are very very high. So it may not happen overnight for India, but we have to start making a journey
Fair.
towards it. But at the same time, we should never let go this opportunity of this large data centers being created in India. This should not go to Middle East, Europe, or some other
Hmm.
country
Hmm.
because of various resistance or various things which could be diplomatically sorted out. And so we may lose a huge investment,
Sure.
FDI coming to India if we lose out on this. So we should definitely iron out our policies, iron out our relations,
Sure.
and ensure that those are coming to us. At the same time, we have to start building. This is like making semiconductor in India.
Hmm.
So it was something we could not think of earlier. Now we are on that path, and similarly, these are
Absolutely.
high investment projects. So there has to be more commitment from the government also to walk this way. At the same time, we should bring in that investment that's possible, that will also create a larger ecosystem in India.
Okay. Your final thoughts, Rajesh, and then of course I will ask Jolly. You of course have spoken about the fact that with this particular development, it has to be an orchestrated, cohesive effort, which is well, policy, diplomacy, and the fact that we have to make sure that we are building and we are building fast. Final thoughts. Where do you see this going?
I think this is a temporary thing. The better sense will prevail on everyone involved, and I think things will be back to India. At the same time, it is a little bit of a wake up call for inside to build our own. So these are two quick thoughts.
Fair enough. Jolly, final thoughts as far as this is concerned. What's your final take on the fact that where do you feel this is moving towards?
Yeah. So, Sudhi, I think we need to do a few things to, like we can look at hedging some short-term risk by having more of domestic GPU parks. We need to accelerate our open standard sovereign stack build up. We need to ensure that we are mandating critical workloads to run only on India hosted compute. And I think that the kind of requirements that we have, the kind of deployments that we are doing, we won't just hit the 3.5 gigawatts target. We'll own the next 35 gigawatts of intelligent infrastructure that powers the AI future.
Nice. Wonderful. Well, Jolly and Rajesh, thank you so much for joining in and giving your wonderful little insights on this. And I believe it is, of course, the fact that it is a wake-up call. It has to be a cohesive effort, as both of you have put it across. We have to build, and of course, the policy has to back that up. Thank you again for being on Front Page. Well, here is our final understanding. This, well, isn't the end of India's data dream. It's actually a recalibration, a moment to decide whether India will be a hosting hub or a hardware hostage. The US pause may actually slow the next wave of data centers, but it might just ignite India's own sovereign infrastructure race. Because, as one analyst told us off record, and this is a gem, when hyperscalers hesitate, sovereigns accelerate. Well, we are very, very proud to bring you. So I'll find you. Yesterday, we decoded how the Indian Army quietly rewrote the rules of modern warfare. Today, so I'll find you. And the truth behind Operation Sindoor, India's first AI-enabled cross-border strike. When India hit back after the Pahalgam terror attack, it wasn't just boots on the ground. It was 23 made in India apps powering every decision, every strike. So I'll find you. Developed dynasty. Over the years, these apps gave commanders real-time battlefield intelligence, heat maps, and predictive targeting. So I'll find you. Satellites and ground sensors into one single operational picture. Lieutenant General led the Army's digital command systems, confirmed that AI was used for multi-sensor fusion, target prediction, and weather-based. So I'll find you. 94% precision during the operation. This wasn't just war; it was data in motion. So I'll find you. Was built on India's own digital stack, TRINETRA, integrated with Project Sanjay, generating live automation. SAMBHAV, the Army's secure messaging platform, replaced foreign apps. So I'll find you. ECAS, the electronic intelligence collation system, tracked enemy radar, jammers, and signals. So I'll find you. Forecast enemy movements before they happened. And a meteorological AI system built with IMD gave 72-hour weather data deep inside enemy territory, letting Indian artillery strike with surgical precision. Together, these tools formed a command and control web unlike anything seen before, where commanders operated with clarity, precision, and foresight. Operation Sindoor proved one thing: India can now fight digital-first wars. AI didn't sit on distant servers, it ran on the edge, inside forward command centers, ensuring decisions were instant and independent. This, well, was made possible through JIGYASA, India's upcoming military-grade large language model, trained entirely on classified Indian data and expected to go live in 6 months. It's the Army's generative AI built for defense, not display. Operation Sindoor is more than a military success. It's India's declaration of AI sovereignty. With a 1200% rise in AI adoption and a 620% jump in data storage, the Army's digital backbone is now stronger, faster, and smarter than ever before. It marks the dawn of a new doctrine, one where wars are no longer just fought with weapons, but with data, algorithms, and precision compute. India didn't just respond to terror, it built a template for the AI age of warfare. Because in modern combat, information isn't just power, it's victory. And finally, on front page, after rockets, HAL now wants to build the next generation of fighter jets, including Russia's stealth beast, the Su57 Felon. This is the biggest signal yet that India is entering the elite club of nations capable of building fifth-generation fighters. For over 2 decades, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited (HAL) has been the backbone of India's air power. It built 272 Su-30 MKIs, the twin-engine workhorses of the Indian Air Force, under a $12 billion licensed production deal with Russia. Now, after mastering the MKI, HAL has told Moscow it's ready to co-produce or locally assemble Russia's next-gen Su-57 stealth fighters in India. If proved, well, it would mark the first time India manufactures a fifth-generation aircraft on home soil. HAL says its new manufacturing lines, automation upgrades, and digital design tools proven during the Tejas Mk1A and AMCA programs have made it ready for that leap. Last month, HAL inked a 66,500 crore rupees deal to deliver 97 Tejas Mk1A jets to the Indian Air Force, one of the largest fighter procurements in Indian history. Multiple reports suggest that about 9 brand new Tejas jets are currently waiting for engines from GE Aviation. HAL CMD Dr. DK Sunil admitted that the only bottleneck now is imported engines and promised that HAL is already designing its own jet engines, including one for the upcoming Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, which is AMCA. He said it quite clearly, and this is what he said. If we had our own indigenous engine, this choke point could have been avoided, end quote. HAL currently invests over 3,000 crores a year in R&D, building a pipeline of homegrown systems from helicopters like Rudra and LCH Prachand to jet trainers like the HTT-40 and Hawkeye. The Su-57, well, codenamed Felon, is Russia's answer to the F-22 and F-35. It features super cruise, stealth geometry, and AI-assisted avionics, giving it a radar cross-section 100th that of the Su-30. HAL officials say India's experience with the Su-30 MKI gives it the perfect foundation to absorb Su-57 technologies, especially composites, radar-absorbent materials, and vector thrust engine integration. If green-lit, production could actually happen under a Make in India Russia joint venture, potentially reviving the long-shelved FGFA, which is the fifth generation fighter aircraft project. For India, this isn't about importing fighters. It's actually about owning the assembly line of the future. India's ties with Russia in defense tech run very deep, and they've paid off in battle. Remember the S-400 Triumph missile systems? Well, those long-range surface-to-air missiles turned out to be a game-changer during the recent border conflicts. Their radar coverage and engagement range let India target enemy aircraft deep inside hostile airspace, disrupting, well, the enemy's targeting cycle before it even began. Even under United States pressure during the Trump era, New Delhi went ahead with the S-400 deal, standing firm on strategic independence. That same resolve now defines HAL's push to collaborate with Russia on the Su-57 stealth fighter, not as a buyer, but as a co-builder. Just as the S-400 gave India an aerial shield, the Su-57 could give India an invisible sword, stealth, supercruise, and AI-enabled targeting built right here at home. And let's just actually say this time, Trump won't be smiling because, well, this goes way beyond buying Russian oil. India is now buying Russian stealth, building. India's Air Force currently operates around 32 fighter squadrons against an authorized strength of 42. With MiG-21s retiring, India urgently needs modern replacements to counter the twin fronts of Pakistan and China. Alongside Tejas and Rafael, the Su-57 or the indigenous AMCA, now in advanced design, would actually give India a tri-layered fleet. And this is what it actually means. The light fighters, Tejas Mk1A for agility, medium fighters, Rafael AMCA for multi-role dominance, and finally, the heavy stealth fighters, Su-57, for long-range deterrence. Defense experts call this mix, well, the most balanced air strategy India has ever planned, end quote. Just weeks ago on Front Page, we covered how ISRO handed its small satellite launch vehicle, SSLV, to HAL, officially making HAL India's first rocket building company. Now, it's aiming for the skies again, not just assembling fighters, but designing the entire aerospace ecosystem for India's next 50 years. HAL's chairman summed it up. We built India's fighters yesterday. We are building its future today, end quote. Make sure to please go ahead and check out if you haven't already. And that very proudly, well, brings us to the end of Front Page tonight on AIM Network, India's definitive media organization and voice on everything AI and technology. Front Page is powered by MachineCon 2025, India's invite-only residential summit for GCC heads, which is exclusively brought to you by AIM Network. Well, till we meet again on Front Page, this is me saying that thing again, which is think AI, think Bharat, think AIM.